This episode is sponsored by Medicine-Based Beauty, where beauty is backed by science. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cultivate CNY. If you're new here, I'm your host, Alex Canavan, and I am so excited for you guys to hear today's conversation. So this week on Cultivate CNY, we have the dynamic trio behind Root to Rise. We have Meghan Thomas, Jaime Weisberg, and Tracy Dando. We talk about how their collaborative magic took flight with a breathtaking one-day retreat last October, and it has since then evolved so much. We talk about their upcoming weekend retreat called Ascend and Elevate happening at Vanderkamp on January 17th through the 19th. And we talk a little bit about how they met, what their dynamic is like, and how they hope to change women's lives in Central New York. So without further ado, let's welcome Jaime, Meghan, and Tracy to Cultivate CNY. Meghan, Tracy, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited to have you guys here. I'm excited to be sitting down with all three of you. How did you guys meet? I'd love to know, because all of a sudden I see this incredible girl gang.
Yes.
Killing it.
First time we've heard
I like
that.
a girl gang.
Yeah. We didn't really know each other beforehand, so it's really amazing how far we've come. I had interviewed both of them on my podcast, and Jaime and I had met for a few years before through different entrepreneurial groups, and Tracy and I just met months before, and she was on my podcast, and I was like, ooh, this is something here. We immediately connected. And I was at a retreat as a guest teacher. And I was also in the experience because it was like a 4 or 5 day retreat. So even though I was teaching one of the nights, I'd been going through the experience of being in a retreat. And that's when I got this intuitive message, this intuitive download of creating a day retreat that could have more people at a lower price point. At this point, I had done retreats, but they'd been at that $2,000 range, and not everyone could access that. And especially coming out of the experience of COVID, people wanted community. And so when this idea came, I reached out to them within days of it. It was just a very intuitive knowing. I've spent a lot of time building a relationship with my intuition based on times I didn't listen to my intuition. And so now I act upon it pretty quickly. And so I reached out to them. And what did you guys say?
No.
Like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
I
we
did not have
so
that same,
much.
Yeah, we did not have
on.
that same intuitive knowing if that's how. Yeah.
Yeah, Jaime and I didn't know each other. I think we had met very briefly once at your birthday party. And even though I love the idea of a retreat, I was like face planning into Safe Space at the time. I had so much behind the scenes real life. I was moving. It was just so much. And so there was this part of me that yes, and this part of me is like, how the heck is that even possible?
Yeah, and I same thing. I was just about to launch Northbound Mind and Body Shop. I was running my practice where I do training and speaking. I was working with a place in New York called the Flourishing Center, single parenting, all the things. And so when Meg approached me, I remember I was sitting in my shop that I was building out, and there's boxes everywhere and paint cans. I mean, it couldn't have been more of the wrong time. And so I think I said, can I get back to you? Which is always a good thing to say when people ask you a question. I always say, well, you can always say, let me get back to you on that one. So I got back to her, and I really think, I don't know, Trace, I don't know if it was the same for you, but I just sat with it, and for some reason I too got that intuitive knowing, and it just did feel right at some point. And so I said, "Sure, let's see what this is." And then I met this character over here.
And she was like, I'm in. I'm so in.
Yeah, but yeah, it wasn't necessarily for the two of us, just because we, it was her intuitive hit, not ours. But I sat with it, and I think the same with Trace. We just, something felt right, and the rest is history after that.
I think I struggled because I was like, how am I running retreats? And I honestly struggled with this for the first 6 to 8 months of even running retreats. I'd be like, because we very clearly have roles, which we kind of will get into. But for me, I really struggled with, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome, but I'm like, how am I stepping into this space and helping others in this sort of a setting when all of my experience is lived experience? I don't have PhDs, I don't have all of these trainings. And I really struggled with that. Like, how do I know enough to be supporting people and helping people in that way? And thank God for these two. Not only did I gain two amazing entrepreneur women into my life, but I gained two best friends that are like my biggest cheerleaders. And so they just like, were like, dude, do you see yourself? Like, do you see yourself out there? And it was such a moment of growth for all of us. So,
And that's such a blessing to have, like, other people that are in it with you that can maybe speak some light into you, especially when things get dark, because it's not easy, as you guys know. I would love for each of you guys to talk about your background, who you are, and what you bring to Root to Rise. So, Tracy, you go first.
okay. I am Tracy Dando. So, I started an organization called Safe Space. Probably the dream, the intuitive hit came to me at a dining room table about almost 7 years ago. And at the time, I was a special education teacher, and I sat down and I literally used crayons to draw it. And this was all very pre COVID, but off of my own experience of dealing with and recovering from an eating disorder for most of my life. I had been in and out of treatment facilities, which is a very medical based, like, image, and very, I kept coming back into Syracuse after I would be in these places, and I'd be like, what do I need to create here that I don't continue this cycle of going back and forth? And this idea came to me, and it wasn't a medical facility, it was a community space that made me feel safe. And so I created Safe Space really with the plan of it being a passion project. And recently, within the last 2 years, have fully jumped from teaching into Safe Space, which is now led into a TED Talk and some speaking experiences and some new things that are on their way. So I don't know how to describe who I am. I love to speak the truth and lead through passion and vulnerability, and that comes out in many different forms. And I'm still trying to figure out sort of my route, or get really good at not knowing my route and just trusting that it's all going to happen.
I love that. That's beautiful. And that's like such a strength.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
This always feels like the hardest question because it's so big. And I have been an entrepreneur forever. And I started a wedding photography business, and it was around 2013. And I had built this business. I had made the most money I'd ever made in my life. And I got to the end of the season and I was like, I'm miserable. Like, what is wrong? Like, if my idea of success and money equal happiness, it wasn't there. And I think very often when we finally have the question, like when that pops in our head, solutions will be presented. And I was like, is this what life is? Like, is this the rest of my life? And at that moment, I was introduced, within a month's time to yoga and meditation. And I'm somebody that my mind is very busy, and I didn't come into yoga for the physical aspects. I came to it because it turned the volume down. I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I still sometimes very often do, and have lists of things happening in my mind. And it just like turned the volume down. It was still there, but I started to build this relationship with, oh, this feels really good in my body. And I knew I didn't fully believe in the yoga business model of a yoga studio. And so I started doing retreats. And at first, they were for female entrepreneurs because that's what I knew. I knew that more than I even knew yoga. And as that continued to evolve and I'd open it up, my next retreat was like, well, you should always pay attention to what you name your retreats or anything in your business. My first one was like something about resting, and everyone, all they did the whole weekend was sleep. Like it was like the entire intention was that. So then the next one was like, find your inner voice. And it was cultivating that relationship as I was stepping more into my own. And I've had so many experiences with my physical body. It started from a young age of having, my lungs have collapsed. I've had multiple lung surgeries and stomach surgeries, and things just seem to show up pretty quickly in my body. And so I built this relationship with understanding how to move things through the body. Whereas I think of therapy as kind of like going in the front door where we're talking and we're conscious about it, and there's a place for that. I still go to therapy every other week. This is like breath work and yoga and meditation is like the side window where you don't have to have a consciousness of this thing that happened to me at 3 years old, but you can release it through your body. So a lot of what I bring to Root to Rise is how do we ground ourselves, become present and back in our bodies so we can become aware of these things? And then how do we move it? How do we move emotion and trauma through the body? And so it's continued to evolve. And like Tracy, I don't know. I don't know what is next. I just am here for the ride and I'm open to continuing that journey to shift.
Are you a professional woman in Central New York looking to connect with a community that values local talent? Unlock your career's potential with the CNY Women's Network online business directory. For just $9 a month, you can enjoy a premier listing that connects you with a community of engaged customers, recruiters, and executives eager to discover you. Getting started is easy. Simply click the link in the show notes to purchase your listing, and your profile will be live within 72 hours. And one more thing, as a valued listener of the Cultivate CNY podcast, you get 20% off your first month with us. Just use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first month with the CNY Women's Network online business directory when you use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. Don't miss out on the opportunity to grow your career and attract new opportunities. Join the CNY Women's Network directory today to be seen, connected, and hired.
Well, I'm Jaime. I also go by JJ, although they never call me JJ.
No,
They
it doesn't work for us.
Yeah, they said that's not
She
working
says
for
that all the
them.
time, and we're like, yeah.
They're like,
We
who's this JJ?
We've never met her.
Yeah. I feel like half my life calls me one or the other. It's just random, just kind of as I've grown up. So my background's in positive psychology. It's kind of what I bring. It's my flavor. I bring a little science. I always joke. So, and just a side note,
She's gonna tell
I
him. She's
feel
gonna
like-
tell him.
Sorry. So we all realize that we kind of have an S to us. Like Meg leads with spirituality and spirit. Tracy's a storyteller, and I kind of have the science side. So we joke that we're kind of like the off-brand Spice Girls, and I'm science spice, spirit spice, and story spice. And
I love that.
Yes. So it's just our little
Ages us a bit. Yes,
yeah,
it does.
I know. So my background's in positive psychology, and I have a practice, which is where I started, was a practice where I go into organizations. And so while Meg has led a lot of the, personal retreats, bringing the public in, I've been more in an organizational side. So I go into companies, nonprofits, higher ed, healthcare, finance, anywhere, anyone wants to listen. And I teach resilience and well-being strategies and positive psychology. I do a lot of talks. And from that, a lot of people know me from a space that I have, which I opened about a year and a half ago. That was it wasn't really the plan. It kind of found me, this space. And so a lot of the stuff that I was doing in organizations, I started bringing into this public space. And now I have the coaching and consulting piece, and then I have Northbound Mind and Body Shop, which is a little place in Manoa. Andy was just on here. I was laughing because he was talking about how some people come to him with business ideas because him and Colin have been doing all the branding and marketing and all these companies for so long, and he kind of immediately thinks, yeah, that's a terrible idea. But he was talking, that's what he said about MySpace. Thanks, Andy. Is that
Love how honest he was.
Well, he said, you're going to what in Manoa? Which I get that a lot, but it was just a space that happened to come into my sphere. A friend of mine owns the building, and it just worked out of the back of there for a year before I built out the space. And now I have products, services, and events all in support of mind and body well-being. So I bring a little bit, the short answer to your question is I bring a little bit of science, practical tools, and really positive psychology is a science of human flourishing and resilience and well-being, and pretty cool that there's a science of that and that people are actually studying how do we live a better life. And so I bring that in, but in a very practical way. I don't really come in with, research papers, although I do love to
You
read
could.
them.
Yeah, she'd like to.
She could if
She
there
could.
was
I mean,
more
if you
hours
wanted
in the
to,
day,
but,
right?
yeah, to bust that
Yeah.
out. But we definitely have our own unique things that we bring in that are very different. But I think everybody that comes to our retreats identifies something in each of us. And we all have been able to, I think that back to that cheerleader piece and having people that lift you up when you're nervous or scared or don't know what you're doing. Or even Tracy used to say at the retreats, I don't know why I'm here.
Just gonna be really vulnerable with you
Yeah,
all.
I don't know why they picked me to come be here. We're like, Tracy, you have so much to offer.
Things
I
I probably
promise.
shouldn't say to the
But
public.
I think people relate to that. And because we feel safe to be ourselves around each other, I think people feel safe to be themselves when they come to our experiences.
And we had no idea. Like that first off, it was only ever going to be one day retreat. That's all we ever committed to. And we got up there and had so much chemistry between us and we immediately saw, we had sold out of that retreat and we saw that need that people wanted this experience. And it just continued to snowball from that. But we didn't even know what that was going to look like. But we are so much better together than alone. And as somebody who's led retreats in the past, like what we can bring together is beyond, like, we need her magic there. Like she is this ending piece that like brings the heart, like really connects it that way. She brings in this mind piece and I bring in the body, and it's like we all complement each other and it builds upon the entire day to have this truly transformative experience happen. And we couldn't have dreamt that would have happened.
No, we didn't know. I don't think we knew what we were doing. We just said, okay, let's do a retreat. And 75 people signed up, I think, for the first one. And it just had a momentum on its own. We weren't really planning anymore. We thought it was one time. That's it.
That's like very similar to how CNY Women's Network started. It started with the CNY Women's Summit. Attendance was way better than anyone expected, and that's when I realized, oh, I'm not the only one that wants to go to events like this, because it was really an idea that I had out of a selfish interest to attend a similar event.
Safe space was selfish. Like I think that's the part that it all blooms from that, right? And then you have to sort of transition from that role. Like, I don't need safe space anymore. I needed safe space 8 years ago, 6 years ago. I needed that. And then it's like you transition out of this role of it selfishly healing and helping you into sort of leading and guiding it to help more. And when we were talking in the other room, it's like people are craving community. And they don't know what they're looking for. They just know that they're looking for it, right? And so that's why all these amazing community-led, a lot of women doing these community-led organizations are popping up. And it's really exciting to see, because we are so much better together. When we work as one, it's like that is when change happens. So, and I just got goosebumps.
Well, 3 is always better than 1. And from what it sounds like, you guys are literally like the trifecta. It's like mind, body, spirit.
Yeah.
So you guys have definitely found something very special. How has Root to Rise evolved over what has it been? Only a year, right?
Yeah, our first one was last October.
You guys have done so much. So I'd love to hear how it's evolved and what you guys have cooking right now.
We've tried so much.
We've fallen down a few times.
Yeah, I think that's important too, though, to even share that, because I think people on the outside see the successes and your highlight reel. And because, first of all, we each have our own things, our own businesses, our own communities. And then we came together and created this thing that had a life of its own that we weren't expecting. And so we tried to flow with what was coming at us. And we tried at one point doing a community and having an online platform. And we had if you have anyone sign up, that's success, I think. And we had people coming to it, and it just wasn't maybe the right fit for even where we each were, because we were trying to balance all sorts of other things, as well as we realized that people were loving the in-person piece, and that we tried to do an online piece as well, and that people were having maybe even some online fatigue after COVID, and people really wanted to be together. So we tried the online community piece for a while, membership, and we learned a lot, I would say. We did learn a lot. As everyone does, as they're trying new things. And then we pivoted more. And so we've tried different seasons for the retreats, and we love Vanderkamp. It really is part of the magic, I think, of what we do, because it's local enough. So it's remote, it's tucked away in 850 acres of land, but you don't have to travel 2.5, 3 hours to get there. And so we've kind of tried it in different seasons. We tried a summer one,
Didn't do great.
didn't do
Didn't
great.
do
We
great.
had, but we loved it. Still was an intimate, fun experience. But we've tried different things, and we found what seasons work better, what format works better. Now we're trying
How many people?
how many, how the sizes. Yeah. So we've just kind of played with different things, different types of ways to bring people together. But ultimately, I think we've really found that the magic that people, that we create and that people were wanting was this in-person retreat experience that was unique to upstate New York, that I don't think people were getting in CNY. And so we've kind of stuck with those. And so we're doing some of the 1 days, and then we're going to move. We have our Ascend and Elevate coming up. And this is our first foray in multiple day retreats together. We have started to do overnights with Root to Rise, where we had an extension, a small group of people could stay. There's this beautiful place called Grace Manor that Vanderkamp graciously let us stay at. So we
I feel
fell
like
in
it's our house.
So
I feel like
yeah, I think they wanted us to fall in love with this
Yes,
this
I
place.
feel like- I feel
it's
like
so
they gave it to
beautiful,
us.
and we did. We fell in love the minute we were in there.
We're so lucky to have
minus
them
a small minus
here.
a small bat in Grace when we first stayed there, and
We were the first people to ever stay there.
yeah. So we fell in love, and we immediately said, "How do we have people sleep up here?" Because it's just so.
We need
People wanted a little bit more, so we dipped our toes in with the overnight with a small extension on Route to Rise, and now we're having our first multi-night, multi-day, spend multiple days in this gorgeous place, immersed in yourself and small community. And so I think that's where we're at right now. I mean, we don't know exactly what's coming, but we do know what works and what hasn't worked. And I think those haven't working pieces are important, and you can't really know them sometimes unless you try. And it's easy as business owners to get wrapped up in the not working, and why did I try this, or why didn't I do this different? And I think sometimes it's only within trying that you know what works well and what doesn't.
And do you know human design?
I've been sitting here
we're
because I want to know what you are.
I'm a
too.
generator.
Okay.
You're a generator.
So
Yeah.
we're all
I thought
three
I was a
manifesting
manifestor generator.
Yes.
But I'm not. I'm a generator.
So
That surprises me. I would have thought you were
Yeah.
manifesting too.
So what she just spoke to was all three of us are manifesting generators. We have the ability to pivot a little more easily than a generator. So like the generators create the most output. They can work harder, longer, faster than anyone else. You can create more than anyone. But the biggest challenge is when you're like on this pathway and you're like, you feel like, and I don't want to speak for you, but a generator typically feels like we have to complete this project and see it all the way through, as to where a manifesting generator can do a little sidestep and pivot and be like, you guys, we launched this whole thing. It didn't work. Okay. Like, let's go in a different direction and see. And so once we realized all three of us were that, it made so much sense of how we work together.
Sometimes it's like,
oh, but sometimes we're just like, we could do this and this and this, and let's
I
do
think
this
we were
idea.
going
then we
to
have
start
to
a
put money back in.
restaurant. I mean,
Yeah,
you know.
a journal. We
Yes.
like we
did
always
have a
have
journal.
all these different ideas, and then we're like,
Even the ideas that the world saw us put out, we had like 100 more behind the scenes. Like,
So what do you guys have planned for Ascend and Elevate then? How are you guys going to fill all those days? I'm really curious.
yes.
What do you guys have planned for the
I'm
program?
so excited because this is a part we haven't done together yet, but this is where I really built my business, was multi-day retreats. And you always hope that people have these like pivotal aha moments in front of you, whether it's in breathwork or yoga or any of these experiences. But the beauty of these multi-day retreats is I led one in the Adirondacks, and I remember this woman coming back, and we had 3 days together, and like I could feel she was on the edge of something, but we weren't seeing. And then she had an experience like with a babbling brook down, alone on a nature walk. And it's like, with Vanderkamp being essentially our fourth unofficial partner, that allows, I truly believe, this land is magical. It is really special, special land. And it can hold us in that container. Like it can hold that space of someone having a nature walk by themselves and having their own aha moment. And now they have a spa. Like now we have the sauna and these cold plunge tanks and a hot tub and all of this, which is just going to add to it. So we're going to be able to go deeper and have more space to explore that. So where at Root to Rise, we would have these little snippets of each of us and our magic. This is going to be a full experience. Like we could have a full sound journey, full cacao ceremony, full breath work, all of that. Then Jamie's going to have space to really go deeper into positive psychology. Tracy's going to have so many moments every single day. There are these circles and sharing circles. And we don't even know where this is going to go because we can feel that it's going to be big. And for those who are ready to make an investment in themselves at that level. So our starting price is $1,300, and those are shared rooms, to about $2,200, which is individual rooms or individual cabins. And it's an investment.
Of course.
It is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't think we really know. Like, I think we have a plan clearly. And
Yeah, don't tell them we don't know.
No, I know. Sometimes I'm too vulnerable, guys.
We do know.
We
do
know.
have a plan.
But you're
And
open. You're
there's
open
room. I'm-
to
We're
I'm-
open
I'm
to
kidding.
pivoting in the
Yes.
magic. Right.
receiving, something.
Because what happens with our one day is we have anywhere from 50 to 75 individuals in there that we're taking on this journey. So root, rise, connect, and be seen. And so we're taking them through. We've gotten great at like supporting individuals on that journey and really watching them as they go through it, and knowing what to look for and where we come in. And so what happens is people leave that space, and it's like they leave that bubble at the end of the day and they're craving more. And once you're in that space and you go back into the real world, it can be sort of an isolating feeling because you've opened yourself up, and it's really hard to put into words, I think, what an experience like that feels like until you've experienced it. And so to be able to do that for 3 days, like just the magic that I'm so excited for us to see, and to also within us. I think these every retreat are these growth moments for us that like we get a little more comfortable in what we're doing. We have emotion run through us, like it's this collective experience. So people aren't doing it all on their own. It's like we're all in this together. So,
And I think it'll be probably around 12 to 18 people.
Mhm.
And so much smaller group to be able to go even deeper and further into it.
Which allows people, honestly, to be more seen, I think, and
Yes.
to
Oh,
get
for
more
sure.
connected.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Alex here. Just wanted to take a quick second to let you know that we worked out a special deal with the ladies from Root to Rise, and we are giving you $200 off to the Ascend and Elevate retreat happening at Vanderkamp on January 17th through the 19th when you use the code Cultivate CNY at checkout. If you are looking to start the new year off strong and feeling like your most aligned and highest self, then I strongly recommend you attend this retreat. You're going to head to our show notes, click the link, and use the code Cultivate CNY for $200 off. Again, it'll be taking place at Vanderkamp from January 17th through the 19th, and you can use the code Cultivate CNY at checkout for $200 off. All right, back to the show. I love retreats. I'm a retreat girl. And you know what? It takes about 2 full days to really get into it, especially the more guarded you are, the longer it takes to really open things up and start receiving. But I usually on like the third day, it's usually, I like weekend retreats, and usually like the morning of the third day, it's always like, oh, I wish I had like one more day.
Yeah.
Even just to spend with yourself after everything that you had probably gained and learned and experienced. It's nice to have maybe another extra day to reflect and to really let things soak in. But let's hear a little bit more about the property. I mean, I still haven't been able to make it out to Vanderkamp.
You're going to
And
love it.
I've seen photos and it is stunning. And I know that they've been working really hard on that property. So What can guests look forward to if they stay
Yeah.
there for the weekend?
We're so excited about winter there and the experience of that. Like winter being this place where we go more inward. We have that journey within ourselves just within the season. And so there'll be nature available in any way, whether that's going for a walk, there's snowshoeing, all of
There's
those
a
kind of
sledding hill
Yes,
now.
the sledding hill.
Super fun.
Yeah.
The spa, I mean, and the accommodations are incredible. Like the rooms in the houses are amazing. And you can be in a house, a community house where there's, 9 people staying in there, or you can have a cabin to yourself. Or you could come with a partner. We have one cabin left where you could bring your dog or your partner, even if they don't attend the retreat. I would love the dog to attend the retreat, but but there's space for whatever you're called to. We also have one house left, the boat house, which would be perfect for 2 best friends who want that connection with each other, but also want that space to explore for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful up there. And I was somewhat joking when I said, don't tell them we don't know what we're doing. Because I think what she means as well is the space and the time in the room and 850 acres, really, we're just leaving room.
Yes.
For that
we leave
magic.
room.
The property itself just leaves room for exploration and whatever you feel like doing. And that's one of the things we've tried to build more into the day retreats. Each time we did them, we realized that people need more space to just, we extended lunch, and we want people needed more space to just explore and be with themselves as well and each other. And so, yeah, it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous space. And the little houses, the little cabins are magic.
Yeah. There's something about the energy. And I think once you get people up there and you get them into the process, we're all on this internal journey as well as a collective journey, right? And it starts to bring stuff up in people in those moments of silence, that quiet, that's sitting around the fireplace or in the hot tub or taking a walk through the woods, or those moments are when you have these like this clarity come to, or these aha moments. And they're my favorite thing ever when they hit. And you're like, oh my God, where did that come from? But it's like, to create that, to get that to happen, we have to provide the space, the safety, and then the quiet for that to happen. And so it's kind of the progression we bring people on.
My favorite part of retreats is when you see 2 people who have never met before and just get brought together in this experience and this bonding that happens. And you see them, you walk into a room and you're like, those 2 are like kindred spirits.
Yeah.
And we're not the one, we're just creating a container for these things to happen. Like, yes, we're there to lead because you need some of that, but we leave so much space for it to be you together with a new friend and being able to dive deep in a way that all we're doing is helping them open that space.
Yeah, you guys are like leaving that little extra wiggle room so people can kind of make it their own experience and get what they came for, what they need. And I think that's the missing link when it comes to personal development or healing. We can all make sure that we're prioritizing our health, our wellness, and doing the things every day that we need to do. But it's that connection and that, root, rise, connect, and be seen. I think it's the be seen and connection that really creates that change, because it's one thing to have the download and to have the epiphany, but to be able to share that and to have someone else that doesn't even know you, owes you nothing, to truly understand you and to validate that. I think that's where the magic is. That's when things start to really change.
Thank you for saying that, because I think that's so important. It's like you can go into an experience and sometimes people are nervous to go by themselves, but all of a sudden you can show up and you don't have to be mom or daughter or caretaker or partner. You can show up and really remember who you are at your core and what you just spoke to, which is like, when these messages you receive or you understand something about yourself, you can almost try it on before you go back home. So like that bubble of having 3 days together gives you so much more space to really step into it and own it before you go back into your environment, which is when we go back home, it's like everyone wants us to act the way we did before because that's what they know and expect of us and is comfortable in these ways. So when we come back and it's like a new puzzle piece, it doesn't fit exactly the way it did when you left. And so there's that space of needing that integration and the reflection back.
Yeah. I attended a weekend retreat by myself. I went to Kripalu because I've always wanted to go there. It was gorgeous. Very similar situation where you can go and take a walk on your own if you want on a beautiful property. But, the things that I realized, the way my intuition spoke to me truly changed my life that weekend. It was literally like the day after the second summit, where we brought in over 350 women. And I really started to feel the pressure like, I got to do something with this. There's really something special here. We had so much more support and sponsorship and press around that second summit. And at the time, I was heading into my busiest wedding season to date. I had full book of makeup clients. I had a social media job. I had an internship and I was a full-time student. And
Wow.
I was doing all the things, and that's just who I am. And if I hadn't gone alone to that retreat, I wouldn't have had the space to really like own how I was feeling, because I think we're all our decisions are always going to be influenced, I think, by the things that we're seeing, hearing, and the people that we're in relationship with. And I decided that weekend that I was dropping out of school, and I didn't care. I knew I was going to get some pushback from the people that were closest to me, and I decided to just stand in my power and say, sorry, not sorry, I'm doing it because this is what I want. And I think it's only good things happen when you do carve out that time to be just with yourself and to let the universe speak to you, and to not let yourself be influenced by your environment. So, and it's like there's something insane that happens when you just take yourself out of your environment. I mean, we've all experienced going on vacation and feeling like almost like we can start over again, and life is truly what we make it. But kind of going back into the real world is when the real work, I think, starts, because you have to make sure you stay true to those realizations and like apply them into your life.
Absolutely. And when you come back and you feel it, you feel like you were talking, Meg, like it feels like I can just fall back into this role that I've always played. Yet my goal is to change and to grow and to mold and to challenge. And so I'm going to set more boundaries and I'm going to use my voice more and I'm going to do all these things that I've learned how to do. And when you do that, the people around you have to adapt. And all of a sudden, the growth that you've experienced is now everyone around you is having to change and mold because that puzzle piece doesn't fit. And you alone, just with your growth, can change a whole family unit, change a whole company. Like, and you don't realize by just you being. So, Alex, you just being on that stage at last year's summit, like, created growth within everyone with you just being there. So it's like, it's so magical. And I think because we've witnessed it with the people that have continued to show up with our own communities, it's like, it starts this sort of fire of you can't really stop. Like, it's just like, I don't want to stop. Like, so
Yeah, I love it. What sort of impact, I'd love to hear from each one of you, what sort of impact do you hope this retreat and just Root to Rise in general has on women's lives?
I think first and foremost, a place where people feel like they belong, or that they feel a sense of belonging. We're all wired to belong, to be together, to crave something. We all crave something bigger than ourselves, but also a connection that we share. And I think what I was hearing from you is this sense of when you went away, you also belong to yourself. And so I think you have to belong first to yourself. And so I hope that people walk away feeling connected to themselves and their truest version and highest version for themselves. And in that version of themselves, feel that they can belong with other people, because there's just something inherent when you show up authentically and honor who you are. Those relationships, those people are, I think, some of the strongest relationships. And
I love that. That's beautiful.
yeah, and just looking at them, because that's really what we found in each other.
It's like training wheels is how I think about it, which is literally what our friendship has been and our endeavor with Root to Rise. And I think we started sending these like voice messages back and forth in the very beginning. So like we would record our voice and it would be, it's just how we texted each other. It's how we communicated. And we slowly started to dip our toe in. And this mirrors what I think I want for Root to Rise, what I want for individuals. We give them this chance to like dip their toe in to connecting and then being seen. And we literally have done that with our friendship, where we started with just business. And then, like, as life was literally slapping us in our faces with breakups and moving and everything else, we would slowly start to add more into those conversations. And then I remember the first time, guys, I called you just bawling, just like had no words. And this part of me that very few people had ever seen, I was now showing them, and they were holding it and they were there. And all of a sudden, all those beliefs and all those stories that you tell yourself that this part of me is too much, this is too much, I'm whatever, they were just confirming it wasn't, and that they could hold that for me. And it just, now there's no filter.
Now we cry.
There's
Now we cry all the time.
I know.
Cry
Yeah.
daily.
Now we cry all the time.
That's the best. The people
Right?
that you can have no filter
No
with.
filter.
No filter.
I
None.
mean, I feel like the older I get, the less I have that.
I agree.
And it's just so refreshing to just be able to trust people. So I'm so excited for you guys. And I really want to go to this retreat.
Yes,
We
we
want you to
want you
come.
there.
We want you there.
I mean, just even thinking of you being there and that ripple effect of Central New York, what that would mean, right? That's so powerful.
And we are so lucky to have Vanderkamp,
Yes.
like
so lucky.
basically in our
Yeah.
backyard.
Yes.
Such a special property.
Stunning.
And
Yes.
when you were saying that there's something like that land is sacred,
It
like
is.
Magic.
I have no doubt in my
It
mind.
is.
It is. It
Yeah.
really
There's
truly
something
is.
that happens when you pull
The
in
minute you pull
there.
in,
Yeah.
you can feel there's something comes
There's
over
a
your body.
frequency.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We told Troy, we're just going to pitch a tent.
Yeah,
Like,
we might
don't
be
shocked.
living
We-
here.
Yeah. Meg
Yeah.
might
Just going off the grid
redo
at
the houses.
Vanderkamp.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
still some properties that aren't fully
I
redone
might
up
be in the
there.
canoe on the lake.
Yep, the canoe.
Well,
Mhm.
guys, it's been an absolute pleasure sitting down with you. I
Thank
loved
you.
hearing
Thank
about what you
you.
guys are up to and about the Ascend and Elevate retreat. If people want to stay in contact with you or check out what you guys are doing, where can they
Yeah.
reach you guys?
So social media, Root to Rise, CNY is all of our social media. And then our website is roottorisecny.com. And so up to date, probably the most recent is on our socials, Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. And then to look into the retreats, you can see pictures of all of the accommodations, and it tells you everything from the meals to the things that are included. We are working with payment plans. People are reaching out and saying, can I share a room with my friend and we'll split the cost? Yes, we're willing to work with you. So I think, how many spots? I mean, we've got like
Probably 8 spots left.
available.
Yeah.
So we encourage, yes. And we're all on socials, either through Northbound. Like we all have our own businesses. So please, like, we encourage everyone to reach out anyway.
I'll be sure to leave all of your links and all of the information in the show notes. So if anyone's listening that's interested in attending, be sure to check out the show notes. And if you guys have any questions, I'm sure one of these 3 ladies would love to help you and get you there. But other than that, thank you guys for joining
Thanks
me.
for letting-
It's been
thanks
a
for letting
pleasure.
us be in your girl gang.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you left us a review and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you know anyone or if you are interested in being our next guest on Cultivate CNY, be sure to submit us an application. You can just click the link in the show notes. And if you're a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience, you can go ahead and email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship and advertising opportunities. All right, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys next Monday.